Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Work Well podcast. This episode is brought to you in partnership with AJ Products, who are leading the way in ergonomic and active workplace furniture solutions at ajproducts.ie. Today on the podcast, I'm delighted to welcome Brianne McGarry. Brianne originally hails from Canada, and she joined the team at ICE Group in 2011. So 10 years later, Brianne manages all things HR at ICE, where the ethos, and it's a fantastic ethos, is to be bloody brilliant. So ICE Group hit the headlines in July 2019 when they became the first company in Ireland to introduce a 4-day working week. So Brianne is married with 3 children, 7 and under. So every 4-day week and 3-day weekend, as Brianne says, allows for more time for well-being. So ICE Group are a little over 2 years into their 4-day working week, but does it work? Listen in to my conversation with Brianne McGarry to find out. Brianne, hello and welcome to the Work Well podcast.
Hi, Brian. Thanks very much for having me. It's a pleasure speaking to you today.
It's a pleasure to speak to you. And so how are you?
I'm good now. I'm very good. I would say busy. I don't really like that word though. So we might say something along the lines of industrious. Yeah, but doing very well in amongst all of the hecticness.
Yeah. Very good. And so you're based in Galway, as I understand it, but that's not a Galway accent, if I'm not mistaken.
You're correct now in that, although I suppose I say a lot of things that could lead people to think otherwise, but I'm from Canada originally.
Okay.
So, and I've been here now about a good, probably 15 years altogether, married with children and all the rest. So,
very good.
Here to stay for another while anyway.
There's a definite Galway hint there, all right, now that I'm listening in, all right,
Yeah,
very
it
good.
happens. Sure, it's just you tend to say, when I first got to Ireland, you tend to say things that, phrases and words, just so people could resonate with you, just a way to connect with people.
Yeah.
But now it happens, and I don't mean for it to happen. It's just there.
Yeah. And so tell me, I think you're 10 years, so you're 15, 16 years in Ireland, but you're 10 years now with ICE Group.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about that, about ICE Group and about your role there.
So, I mean, yes, certainly it's 10 years on, and a lifetime later, it feels like. I started with the organization Recruitment, which is what they're well known for, amongst other things. And I now see myself here as the HR manager. Hopefully others see me that way as well. But, I suppose I provide support for all of the employees internally in terms of their life cycle throughout their time here at ICE. Executing HR initiatives and all sorts of different programs that we're trying with the whole, digitalization in terms of what's going on with work these days. And I just help partnering with client groups and client leaders to ensure their human capital solutions are delivered along with their strategy. So a very rounded role. And I've been known the odd time, to support emptying the dishwasher and that type of thing as well. We're a very kind of family type environment here in Iceland. So, yeah.
Very good. And is it a big team? I think I was looking, is it around 45, 50 people or so?
Yeah, about that. Yeah. So Irish owned and operated SME, started in 1972 in recruitment and training, and still going today, still family owned and run. And I'd like to consider myself part of the family at this stage. But it's recruitment and training and outsourced services, all sorts of outsourced services that we can provide, mostly known for their recruitment and training services at the minute. Yeah.
And I think perhaps, arguably most famous now in Ireland, certainly as the first company in Ireland to officially and kind of formally move to the 4-day week.
That's correct.
And talk us through that, because this isn't like people taking a day off and not getting paid for it. This is so it's like a full pay, if you like, just moving all your work to 4 days.
So I suppose back in 2019, mid 2019, we launched the trial of the 4-day week, and the initiative or the motivation came from our director, who had a vision that we have, lots of ways that we can invest into the organization. What better way to invest in the organization than into its people? And the business that we're in ICE Group would change people's lives. And the idea was that, we give customers opportunities to change their lives. Now we can change our own people's lives, our own employees, which are the most, one of the most important resources, certainly one could argue, are the most important. And I suppose the idea is that it was a 4-day week or a 3-day weekend. So the 4 days were always going to be together. There are other versions out there where it's the middle of the week or whatnot. But the idea is that you spend more of an amount of time in work and at work. And while you're at work, you're there and your full self is there. And then you have an adequate or a more adequate amount of time to go home on the weekend or go wherever you'd like to go. A lot of people travel, although that was different in the pandemic. And whatever you like to do, whether you work on yourself, whether you spend time with family, whether you volunteer, you partake in volunteer work or any other interest that you have, and you have time to recover and then get back into the office refreshed and ready to work then when your work week starts the following week.
How often do we hear that kind of saying, if people are your most important asset? And quite often, but I hear people say that, I hear leaders say that, but I don't always see it actually being demonstrated then as well. So here you are, so you're actually making the decision to go to the 4-day work week purely to support colleagues, to support employees, to see how that goes, while also, of course, maintaining the support for customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was very important to ensure that we could maintain our 100% service guarantee to our clients. And certainly there was a lot of angst around it initially, because the person that would be your 5-day a week point of contact would no longer be there on a Monday or a Friday.
Yeah.
So we had to incur, some cross training and working within teams to ensure that services were still covered while people were out. And it was bloody brilliant, which is our ethos here at ICE Group.
I saw that. Bloody brilliant. Yeah. Yeah. Where does that come from?
Our director has a funny sense of humor. No, it's just that we want to be brilliant, and why not be bloody brilliant? Yeah. While you're at it. Really, it's about just being your best self at work, and then in your life, whatever that form that might take. So everything that we do here, we try to be bloody brilliant while doing it.
Be bloody brilliant, yeah, fantastic. And talk to us about the practicalities then of it. So again, just from reading up, I think everyone would have been previously on like a 39-hour working week. But moving to the 4 days, they're now on a 36-hour working week. So only less days, but kind of more hours in the day and across those 4 days. Is that how it works?
That's correct. So it was the sort of standard 8.5 hour working day with your half-hour lunch break, and we changed it to a 9.5 hour working day with a half-hour lunch break. So the days are slightly longer. You still end up working less and getting paid the same. So the idea is to increase the productivity and efficiency of all our processes therein, to make sure that the service level stays the same, and that I suppose the quality system is in behind everything that we do stays the same, which is very important to us as well. But yeah, you get more time to not be at work, which is the best thing about it at all. Yeah.
And you mentioned the cross-training aspect then. So if someone is in the office Monday to Thursday, they need someone then who's up to speed on their work, I suppose, that's in the office on the Friday that can cover whatever they've been doing. That's how it works. Certainly.
And what I'll say is it's not all easy, and it doesn't go perfectly every time. And there are times where there are unforeseen things happening in the business that are critical or crucial to success. So the said person might have to do some work on the Friday or the Monday. Now, those instances are very few and far between to say. We actually did a report there not that long ago on how many people had to work on their 5th day. And it's a minuscule percentage. So we've been a very lucky bunch, I'll say, and that it is working it works, the system works as such. One of the things, for example, that we might look at on the 5th day is training. So for myself, I've just started a master's at University of Limerick in Human Resources Management, which has been very exciting on the beautiful campus on site. But so my fifth day at the minute is my school day, if you like. So
very good, yeah.
All these years later, back to school. But I am really loving the experience, and I'm very grateful to be able to have the time to go. I'm doing it part-time, so I'm working my 4 days and doing my fifth day education in the 12-week blocks or whatever the program is set out to be.
Yeah.
So
but that's great. So you don't need to take a day of annual leave for that.
That's right.
That's your day off, effectively.
Yeah. Exactly. And people say, well, then you're still on the 5 days, but it isn't. It's a different type of a fifth day, and it's for myself really, and it's for my own development and growth. And so far it's been, really, really good, positive, mind-opening. And I would say that, I'd say, for the most part, because this is something that I've wanted to do myself, that, people appreciate it. So if it's something you want to do, people do appreciate it. It doesn't feel like a fifth day in that sense. I know a lot of people would have been traveling on their fifth day, and maybe talk about the pandemic again, but certainly people love to travel. People are much happier. Survey data shows we had, I suppose in terms of our first year of our trial, we had no unplanned attrition. Our survey data confirmed that people were happier and more productive in their working day. We had excellent attendance records. So very, very beneficial to not only the people that were working, but to the organization to that effect.
Very good. Yeah, I was going to ask you about some of the measurements. You touched on a few there. I think you're 2 years in now. We're a little over 2 years into the trial, if you still want to call it that. Give us some more of those measurements. It's productivity is probably the one that's, I think a lot of people are talking about over the last 18 months, aren't they? Now these are companies that are not now on a 4-day working week, but it's maybe the working from home. I wonder, did that kind of skew things, the fact that the team would have been working from home during the last 18 months as well?
Yeah, I would certainly say, look, I suppose we continued throughout the last 18 months. We continued the 4-day week nonetheless throughout, right? That wasn't affected in and of itself. Okay. Our organization managed to continue the business with the full fleet in tow. We were very fortunate in that regards. Not everybody was as fortunate, as we know. I would have to say that certainly the 4-day week operates on efficiency, productivity, and world-class service. And I would say that at times, these behaviors and outputs took a backseat for some, and rightly so. We know that the pandemic had such an impact on so many levels, and rightly so. For a number of months there, we were just in a mode of survival, and it felt like, the state of emergency. And as a result, some of these measurements and behaviors took a backseat. But we're past that now. We're past the state of emergency. We're well into, as we all are, into learning to operate within the current context, within the pandemic or post-pandemic, if we can go there yet, environment. I suppose what we have done in our organization is we have continued. So the first 6 months was our trial. And at the end of the first 6 months, we administered the survey data and the certain key performance indicators some of which I've already mentioned. And then we made the decision we're going to continue. So we are not in the trial any longer. We're certainly, this is here to stay, right. 2 years and change on. We've continued to operate the same measurements at 6-month intervals. Okay. So we have this stream of data, if you like, in terms of
very good,
and efficiency, and those are some of the most important. Some of the other things that you'd have to measure, I suppose, in terms of our service level. We aim for world-class service, and that's a very high standard to get to, but that's what we want it to be. And so we look at the thank yous that we receive, or we look at the complaints that we get, and we keep a measurement of these so that we can learn from them, because then every risk or every element of could be considered negative, there is an opportunity. And so we do continue to look for opportunities for improvement on these different KPIs that we look at. And then I suppose, one of the main things, I suppose, in terms of like the popular topics right now, would we say hybrid working?
Oh, yeah.
I know that it's a very popular topic, and there isn't a lot of guidance out there in terms, there's a lot of talk about it, there's a lot of literature being published, but there isn't necessarily a lot of actual guidance, because it's new. Yeah. And people are sort of, I suppose, the people that we look to for guidance are a little afraid to say, because it is a new thing. I certainly think that hybrid working depends on your organization. So it does work. I mean, we've seen sort of in the Western world, people have been working hybrid or working from home or working remotely. You know I have family members in the United States that work in other states from where their businesses are, you know, and they work remotely and they do this. So it's possible. It's absolutely possible.
Yeah.
But I think it depends on your organization, your culture, what type of work you do. Obviously, it doesn't, you know, this sort of idea of working remotely won't work for everyone necessarily. With, you know, people that work with products or in shops or these sort of things, all sorts of different disciplines. But what we found the most throughout this period of time is that for the majority, people actually wanted to come back to the office. They requested so. They preferred to be working in the office. And those that would request or that are looking for a remote working opportunity or a hybrid as such, you know, whatever that means in your organization, are very few and far between, actually. People enjoy the office working, and in our environment, because we were very much working in office type of environment, we found that we were more productive, more efficient, and more successful in our jobs.
Okay, so you will continue. So certainly the 4-day week is here to stay, and you're currently just exploring. Like most employees are looking to maybe come back into the office, but that hybrid model that option is there as well. So it'd be probably a mix of hybrid 4-day working week.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. Oh, whatever you want. We've got it. You can have it. Whatever you want to call it.
I mean, flexibility, that's the real, but that's what I'm hearing and seeing is the real winner here, and what organizations are providing. That's what employees, that's what people are looking for, isn't it? It's that flexibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Flexible working. I mean, it means so many things these days.
Yeah.
And it's been around. I mean, it's not new. It's just that it's becoming more of a coined term, and that it's a necessity almost, that when you're looking at an organization, what type of flexibility do they offer? And again, it does depend on the type, you know, the type of company and what they do and all that sort of thing. But the 4-day week, I suppose, for us at ICE Group, in our organization, the idea is it's counterintuitive in that we're sending people home for longer periods of time rather than keeping them at work. Some more traditional wellness initiatives would have been, I suppose, the in-house gyms, for example, or having lunchtime classes and having these, you know, very healthy. Sometimes even you could go to the canteen, you can make your healthy dinner yourself, depending on what's available to you. And these things are great, but they don't transfer as well to our type of Irish-owned SME, which is a very large part of the workforce in Ireland. And so the idea is to be in work and at work for the working day, and then you get through your 4 days, and then you go home and you have your long weekend every weekend to do whatever you like.
Well, I mean, I've mentioned this quite a few times on the podcast, but I'm a big fan of Cal Newport's idea of deep work, and, you know, periods of deep concentrated work followed by periods of rest, recovery, recuperation, whatever that is for you, exercise, family time, downtime, quiet time. And that in and of itself over time leads to kind of greater productivity, greater idea generation, more innovation, that kind of idea. So it's, you know, a long way away from that old school idea of, you know, Monday to Friday or whatever, 100-hour weeks, this kind of idea. It's people being burned out. And the creativity and innovation just totally suffering and dying. It's the rest, the recuperation period are equally as important as the period working, and it actually allows for greater productivity over time.
Yeah, I agree. It sounds like, did you say Cal
Newport? Yeah, I think he's a Stanford University professor. It's a great book, Deep Work.
Deep work. Okay, yeah, I'm pretty certain that the original directors, Margaret Cox and Phil McDonald, have talked to this guy. I'm pretty certain. It sounds very much akin to our ethos in behind the 4-day week. Yeah,
very good. And so those statistics you mentioned and the pulse check every 6 months, is that if there's people or organizations listening in, are they shared anywhere? Is there somewhere they can go to find out kind of more detail on how you're progressing?
Yeah, so I mean, certainly if they want to find out more detail on how we're progressing, you know, I would say to launch an inquiry with us directly. There's a lot of, you know, hype out there right now about the 40 weeks. Certainly it's made government press and all this sort of thing. But yeah, like, I suppose, you know, at the moment, to post-pandemic, or sort of in the state that we're in at the minute, we're dealing with a lot of things. The 40 week is a very positive constant throughout this period of time. And I think that certainly that I could argue that the 40 week, it's in and of itself hasn't changed a whole lot. Perhaps the 3-day weekend has over the last couple of months, like, but yeah, it's going well here anyway.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I know, because I know that you mentioned, I think it's on the government agenda now. It's on, I think it's the Department of Enterprise. It's something they're looking at. The 4-day week is a bit of a kind of a steering group and a campaign being set up just to investigate it further. So I think we will be hearing an awful lot more about it over the coming months and years. So it's definitely an interesting one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, certainly. Margaret Cox, our director, would have spent a lot of time. You know, this movement is for Ireland. It's not just for ICE. We took the bold move. Our organization took the bold move to put it in place. But certainly, there is a number of websites really easy to get to. 4dayweek.ie. And if you just Google that, there's a lot of information at people's fingertips. You can learn about the pilot, you can sign the petition, you can get in touch with people that are in the steering groups, as you've mentioned. And there's a lot of information just there that people can just launch an inquiry and learn a little bit more about it.
Very good. Yeah, I'll be sure to share that link in the article that goes along with this episode. You know, a lot of focus, I find anyway, from organizations when they're talking about well-being initiatives is often on, you know, something that they can do or put on for employees, if you like. And what I found, or what a lot of organizations were finding during the pandemic, was that the last thing people wanted was just something else to attend or to go to or to be there for, to log online in for. Yeah. So you know, that's why I love initiatives. I mean, we need a mix of initiatives and interventions, but I love that the sort of 4-day week is, here we are just giving back time. You're actually just giving back. It's a fantastic well-being initiative in and of itself, just giving back time. And some organizations are taking the choice to give a day off here and there, some even giving a whole week off, this kind of idea. So a well-being initiative doesn't have to take time away from people. It can actually give them some time back, which is what I love about this. Yeah. But have you been doing anything else on top of the 4-day week? And it was a challenging 18 months for everybody. Any other well-being initiatives you were running in there to support colleagues?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose some of the ones that have worked really well for us, and they're not, I suppose, traditionally you think about a step challenge, or you think about, which we've done, or the online quizzes, or the sort of coffee and cake online meetings, and we did those as well, right? Yeah. But where we find that in our organization, humor is a very good way to initiate wellness. And we have just finished a competition in-house here where we have all submitted a baby picture. So there's no congregating necessary. And then we had a competition to try and guess who each baby was, which created great, I would say, laughter and surprise and all of these sort of things. And people had real enjoyment out of it. There certainly was one. So something like that, where you just, you run some sort of a challenge or a quiz. We also do newsletters. We invite people to write themselves into the newsletters, something they've experienced, a joke they want to submit, a picture they'd like to share. And so it's just about that engagement piece where people have their say and they have a platform in which to do it, which in and of itself works as a wellness initiative for our organization. And it can be quite comical hearing what people come out with as well. It's an opportunity for people to be themselves and to share still within work, but in a safe sort of context that isn't, within their position as such.
Very good. Yeah. So great fun and kind of relaxed. Just a nice way to build engagement, as you said. And I'm hoping there was no competition now. People weren't too competitive about it. There wasn't a winner or anything like that.
There was. Yeah. We still like competition. We like to win a nice group. So yeah, there was.
Maybe a month.
Winner, they got the most right. They had I think it was.
Oh, okay, yeah, but it wasn't me. Baby or anything like that, though.
No. I didn't win though, so that I don't know it was fixed. I'm sure. No.
Very good. So you mentioned so that, ICE, one of the main areas that ICE focuses on is recruitment. And I'm hearing a lot about, it's in the media quite a bit, about the Great Resignation. With lots of people, I think they've kind of been, careers were on hold for a while there for a considerable period of time. And now people are just ready for a new challenge, change things up. Maybe they're disappointed about how their employer reacted during the pandemic, that kind of idea. So there's a tsunami coming of career change. I don't know, are you seeing that? It's reasonably early. Are you starting to see that?
Oh, we're in it. We're in
really?
that tsunami. Oh, certainly. Absolutely. We're in the middle of the storm at the minute. Yeah. And it's so, I mean, we've seen it. We've heard that this has been coming for a couple of months now, the Great Resignation, and this is an actual thing. And there are a couple of reasons that you've touched on. And the Harvard Business Review released an article just yesterday. Actually, if you Google it, you can find it. Just Google the Great Resignation. It does give a nice rounded view of why this might be happening and sort of the data that they have been able to retrieve. But it is partly because the state of, I suppose, the state of emergency that we had been in for the last 18 months, it caused a lot of uncertainty for people. So people did not leave their jobs or they were not working at all. And then when the business picked up again, they went back to work. It's sort of a pent up number of people that would have naturally moved on, or the attrition, as we would call attrition, planned attrition. And so it's more than a year's worth of planned pent up sort of resignations that would have naturally happened on their own. And then coupled with many people would have reached their own sort of breaking point after months and months and months of not working, or layoffs or freezes, working partially, and lots of pressures, which we're all familiar with. And that just caused people to rethink their work and their life goals. I would certainly say that you said something about the maybe how it had been handled, and certainly there is a little bit of that. I'm sure that has worked into it, but I think it was more from the sort of their own person's accountability kind of was made a lot clearer to them, because there was so much of not a lot of other noise during the pandemic. And so it has caused them to go, you know what, I'm gonna do this now. I'm really gonna do this. I'm gonna move on. Because what we've seen is people, it's a complete change of role. And one of our most major clients, we did an attrition analysis the other day, and out of, for example, just to give an idea of the metric, out of 50 people that gave us the type of job that they were leaving to go to, only 11 of them were even near the same type of role. So the challenge there is sort of like, okay, can we mitigate against all of these people that are leaving for completely different jobs? Probably not. There's probably not a whole lot we could do except hold on tight and hope for the best. But yeah, I mean, certainly there's a lot of attention around it, and will continue, I think, for another number of months yet.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it pans out over time. Out of interest, are you, I guess, maybe given the publicity around the 4-day week at ICE, have you noticed an increase in people applying for positions at ICE, to work at ICE?
At icejobs.ie? Yes,
Nice plug, yeah.
Yes, no, I mean, certainly, in interviews for internal roles, people have often heard of it, and they do know about it. Yeah, they do. So it does have some agra, if you like, in terms of people coming and looking for the role. I think it's, at the same time, though, it's still so new. It's a new concept that people aren't actually, they just don't know what it is. They don't know what that means for them. And or if they're just kind of not, they haven't quite grasped it yet because they don't know a lot about it. So I still think there's a lot. In a couple of years, I think it'll be a much different conversation rather than have you heard of the 4-day week in the interview, and hopefully so anyways. That's the plan, as I understand it.
Well, I guess when people understand it a bit more, and I guess you don't get the odd, I'm hoping you don't get the odd chancer coming up. I only want to work 4 days, so I'll apply for these guys.
Exactly.
This kind of idea. Yeah. But I think
we don't want them. No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah.
So listen. So you're industrious, as you said at the moment. You're busy. You've the 4 days. You're busy 4 days in work. You've got your day in UL now, which sounds great to be back on campus there. 3 children, if I'm not mistaken, 7 and under. how do you manage your own well-being, or, you know, where do you find the time, or what do you do to support your own well-being?
Well, that's a great question, and I'll be completely honest, because I know that's what people want to hear. It's very, very hard. It's very hard. It's very challenging work. Every day you need to stop and take a deep breath and just take in your surroundings. And you know, I think the self-awareness is a lot of work. You've done a lot of work yourself. I know you offer a lot of training. When you feel it in your stomach and it starts rising, the kind of angst, anxiety, or the, you know, if it's becoming overwhelming, you need to catch that, take a deep breath, take a step back. And first, for me at the moment, that's what it is. It's just very small moments of stopping, and the mindfulness activity. And you know, self-care, what is that? I mean, to me, like, I know there's a lot of people, they really resonate with that, and that's great, and that's good for them. But for me, it's too much of a thing. Self-care is too big. It sounds too daunting. There's a lot of work in it. And I think there's a lot of, it can be what you call it, you know, as long as you're managing yourself, you can be accountable to yourself, and you're managing, and, you know, you're finding that the areas of your life are, you know, meeting up, then I think you're doing well, you know, and that's, you know, and sometimes that's the most you can hope for. But what I like to do in terms of wellness is on a Sunday afternoon, we like to hit the woods. We love going out hiking. Me and the kids, how it's been the kids. We love doing that. And there's lots of areas on our doorstep, which is lovely, so not too far away. Or if we're, you know, we're you know, wanting to get dressed up and go out for a bite to eat, which is lovely, which we weren't able to do obviously for 18 months. And we don't do that very often, but it's still nice to get you away from the house. You know, somebody serves you dinner. I mean, it's very simple, but it's really much well-being for me.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's something we took for granted, didn't we, for so long. And it is nice. It's just that kind of, it feels a little bit extra special now, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
To get out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, but that's it. I mean, look, there are days where I don't do it that well, you know, I struggle and I feel overwhelmed, but I found that undertaking the education, which some people would probably think, I don't understand why you're doing this now, but because it's just so busy. But it's been very rewarding already, even in the first couple of weeks, you know, because it's for myself, and I know that it's still you know, so I think that's the message, to find something for yourself that you enjoy, that, you know, helps, you know, give you a different perspective, a different framework, opens your mind, whatever that activity is. For me at the moment, it's definitely the education.
Well, one of the 5 ways to well-being, it's often overlooked, is to keep learning. So there is, just by learning more, getting yourself out there, it's just something that improves your well-being. And it's for employees as well. If they feel like they're stifled in their role, that can kind of hinder their well-being as well. So always get out there, asking your colleagues, look, do you feel like you're growing? Do you feel like you're learning in your role? That kind of idea. So it's one of those that's often overlooked, but a really important one.
Yeah, I would recommend it, certainly, and whatever form that takes. It doesn't have
exactly.
You know, whatever format, whatever development, you know, you want to undertake.
Exactly.
Certainly. Yeah.
Listen, Brianne, thanks so much for your time today. Really enjoyed that. Where can people go to find out more about you and about your work?
So certainly, you know, as I mentioned earlier, 40week.ie for people that want to learn more about that, just remind that. On Facebook at IceJobs or icejobs.ie.
Fantastic. Listen, Brianne, enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Brian. It's a pleasure.
Hi, everyone. It's Brian here again. A big thank you for listening right to the end of this episode of the Work Well podcast. This podcast has been brought to you with thanks to our partners, AJ Products, who are leading the way in ergonomic and active workplace furniture solutions at ajproducts.ie. Original music that you're hearing right now was composed by my friend Greg Clifford. You can check out the website workwellpodcast.com, where you can access show notes for each episode and also find all our previous episodes. I would love if you could head over to iTunes or Google Play or wherever you get your podcasts to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. A reminder, you can head to workwellinstitute.org to check out the education programs that we have on offer. You're welcome to share this episode with your friends and colleagues so they too can discover and benefit from the content. And finally, if you have any suggestions for future topics you'd like to hear in the show, you can email me directly at brian@workwellpodcast.com. Remember to work well, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next episode.